Hello YouTube, this is Wakia Lion coming to you pre-record from his camper. Two lords that are completely separate yet could not be more interlinked. The sun and the moon have always been two sides of the same entity, yourself. That's why, from Chaldeanism's viewpoint, the moon and the sun are put together as one entity representative of the core yin-yang dynamic of the lords. The sun and moon are how the conceptions of what is chaotic and orderly, inner and outer, and above all masculine and feminine is foundationally understood. All other lords are in relation to these foundational dichotomies, these grand dichotomies, and are representative aspects of this core that makes up the natural order. Though I don't really know any, I do know that there are many myths and legends from all cultures throughout the world that speak of the moon and the sun, from the relationship with the Greek Apollo and Artemis to the Norse Sol and Mani. To put it bluntly, the sun and the moon are the centerpiece to any culture's spiritual understanding of the world around us. Why wouldn't they be? These two lords define our conception of existence itself. Without them, we wouldn't know life. The sun is an obvious example, literally giving light, therefore life, to the earth. I would not be surprised if the moon was just as equally important in the formation of life, having such power over the female reproductive cycle and water itself. The sun in astrology rules the center ego, just as it does in the solar system. It represents authority, kingliness, confidence in the Father. The sun is representative of our will to thrive, the desire to fully blossom, realize and release all of our inner potential into the world. It's basically our life force energy, the stuff that seeks to leave its mark on the outer world. This is different from Mars, in that Mars represents the primal needs, survival, its pure instinct rather than the more regal authority of the sun. Jupiter also has a similarity in desiring to find a purpose in life. The best way I can describe the difference, though, is that Jupiter represents an uncombust sun. Jupiter doesn't give like the sun does, so it's much more focused on itself. Even though it's known as a giving lord, Jupiter's joy is more of an after effect of its own purpose, whereas the sun's whole point is to provide stability and warmth in the void. This is why the sun's natural law is to know yourself. Just as the sun is a fully realized entity that exists regardless of the other lords, a person too must be able to stand on their own regardless of the influences around them and be resolute in the belief in themselves. A person cannot provide stability and authority if they do not know themselves, because to know yourself is to know what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. Your strengths and your weaknesses, what you want to be and what you can be. Until that is sorted out, a person would never be able to project their will to thrive in a healthy manner. Vanity, therefore, is the state by which the sun functions in. Vanity is our desire to project outward, to be noticed, and to be regarded. Vanity, in its more extreme sense, is someone who we all traditionally view as vain. Pompous, arrogant, keeps up with the Joneses, wears all the in-season fashions, etc. But this person, always wanting to project their superiority, never has authority over themselves. A strong sun does not demand attention. It gives attention. It naturally creates attention, just as the true sun gives us the gift of eyesight. A weak sun, by contrast, grows more heated as it desperately hungers for the attention, becoming so overbearing that it practically sucks the air out of the room. When inverting, just as it does in real life, it becomes akin to a black hole, no longer projecting light, but sucking it in, becoming the living embodiment of the void itself, of anti-life itself. The moon represents the reflective ego, the inner self, the subconscious, and the mind in its purest form. Where Mercury is what we think of as the mind, the thinking, the education, how we talk, it's better to say that Mercury specifically represents the nervous system and our training with the world around us. The moon's mind is the true mind, the one that actually thinks about the world and what we think about the world around us. Our inner thoughts, our inner wants, our inner struggles with different aspects of our personality. The moon's reflective nature is also part of how we can see why it's so important for people to have life experience. As Mercury represents the natural law, you are what you know. The moon's law is to understand yourself. Understanding yourself is something that can only come with wisdom, true wisdom, not the mercurial kind that is taught in books, but the kind that is taught outside of books, with other people or the world around you. A massive part of why we live in an increasingly weird, autistic world today is that people don't have natural interactions with each other or the natural world anymore. It's becoming increasingly artificial, just like how philosophers and scribes of yore thought that they were truly brilliant intellectuals because they spent all their time reading dusty books. So too do people think the same today because we think we can live a life passively through another story. We can't. The point of those old stories is to reflect from them and how they relate to our own experiences, not to mimic them and add our own twist to it. That is why envy is a state the moon represents. Envy is the longing for what others have, to be like them, to covet the traits that you desire that the world projects onto you. It's wanting to be stronger. It's wanting to be smarter. It's wanting to be deeper. But that may not always be within your character to have. To understand yourself is to accept who you are and what you can and cannot do. It's the ability to understand what you know about yourself, to feel it, to embrace it. This is where most people fall short. Projecting that you know yourself without wanting to understand yourself, without accepting yourself. The reason why using the word understand instead of accept is so important is that there are many people who proclaim to accept themselves, but many of them fear to understand themselves, and more importantly, where that proclamation of acceptance is coming from. The term fake it till you make it is a perfect example of envy. To do that, you have to pretend to be like the people around you who project confidence because you don't know what you're doing and have no confidence in yourself to be you. Especially if being you runs the risk of failing. To be envious in the extreme is to be in complete self-denial of who you are as a person. Faking it to the point where you become like a mimic to everyone and everything around you. When crossing the border, I imagine that an envious person becomes like a reverted black hole, covering everything in its darkness and blocking out the sun, much like the solar eclipse. To know yourself is to understand yourself. Both are needed in order to fully realize the other. that to know yourself is put first is intentional, for that only by the sun can one see, but only by the moon can one listen, and by them both can one feel whole. This is what certainty is. This is what pride is. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it a great deal and look forward to lecturing you again in the next video. Bye.